Well, I think that we're now in the midst of multiple negotiations between the Trump administration and trade partners with the EU, with the UK, with a handful of other countries, including Japan. A deal has been struck. As far as I understand, the conversations that have been taking place between the United States and India did not lead to a breakthrough that was satisfactory to Trump. And because he sees India's market as very much closed to the United States, particularly on agricultural issues, on dairy goods, he felt compelled to go ahead with a 25% tariff level, which is considerably higher than the 15% that was agreed upon with the European Union. US-India trade is now at about $130 billion, which is quite sizable. So yes, this will have an impact on India, and it will increase costs to the American consumer, which is one of the reasons that I'm somewhat perplexed by Trump's overall strategy. Trump has also mentioned some additional penalty on India because it is a buyer of Russian energy and Russian weapons. That suggests that he is also being motivated by what he's said in Scotland over the last few days, which is he's ready to begin applying what he calls secondary tariffs on countries that do business with Russia. Whether that's included in the 25% or whether there's going to be some additional measures, it's too difficult to tell. I also think that there will be quite a negative impact on US-India bilateral relations, already strained despite the initial optimism that Trump's return to the White House's relationship with Prime Minister Modi would improve US-India relations. On the contrary, I think we've seen a significant deterioration in the relationship, which will likely grow worse as a consequence of this announcement today of 25% tariff levels. Yeah, it's an excellent issue, and it's an issue that many of us here in the United States are somewhat puzzled by. If you look at Trump's statements on why he keeps going back to tariffs and why he loves tariffs, it's difficult to understand exactly what his motivations are. Sometimes he says this is about rebuilding the manufacturing sector. Sometimes he says it's about punishing countries that don't play fair. Sometimes it's about raising revenue to the United States government because in many respects, tariffs are taxes that flow to the Treasury. Sometimes he says this is about punishing countries because they allow too many immigrants or too much fentanyl into the United States. And so exactly what Trump's motivations are difficult to tell. I think the biggest issue is the one that you mentioned. He campaigned for re-election on a platform of improving the living standards of working Americans, bringing down prices at the grocery store, at the Home Depot, at Walmart, at places that Americans shop on a regular basis. These tariffs are going to do the opposite. And that's simply because if imports from India, from Japan, from the European Union are hit with tariffs, whether it's 15% or 25%, the American consumer will, for the most part, be the party that is paying the increased costs. So as these tariffs kick in, as the price of imports go up, we are going to see the American consumer get hit with significant price increases. I do think that that is going to take a significant toll on Trump's popularity. How he responds to that, whether these initial tariffs are going to be brought down, it's much too soon to tell. Well, I think we're seeing two different issues get wrapped together. One of the issues is tariffs and Trump's fondness for them and his belief that somehow the United States is being taken advantage of. And yes, India has much more access to the American market than the United States has to the Indian market because of Indian protectionism and tariffs, but that doesn't mean it's not a good deal for the United States, in part because Indian goods come in and they provide cost-effective items for Americans. So the tariff issue is getting wrapped up together with the Russia issue. And I think Trump, over the course of the past month or two, has really changed his position on Russia and its invasion of Ukraine. He initially sided with Putin. He initially threw President Zelensky of Ukraine out of the Oval Office and said, I'm not going to send you any more weapons. Then, after a series of phone calls with Putin, in which Trump thought he was going to get an end to the war, he got the opposite, an increase in Russian attacks against Ukraine. And I think Trump got angry, he got frustrated, he felt that he had been taken advantage of by Putin. And then Trump has pivoted, and he's now extending the flow of weapons to Ukraine, allowing the Europeans to buy US weapons to send to Ukraine, and is in the process of implementing more sanctions on Russia and trying to punish countries like India and China that purchase a lot of Russian goods, particularly Russian energy. I do think this is a strategy that's going to backfire, in the sense that in terms of the political impact of these tariffs on India, I expect India to be less willing to work with the United States to stand up to China and India, to both China and Russia. So in that sense, it may well be a step in the wrong direction. But Trump has, go ahead. No one. I think Donald Trump is, in this second term, somebody who is unchecked. And you have individuals from Wall Street, in the Treasury Department, in the Commerce Department. I'm guessing that they are not very happy about these tariffs because they really do risk damaging global growth and fragmenting the global economy. But we are now in an America in which the president has deliberately surrounded himself with individuals who will do what he says. And so what I think we're seeing now is a president who is rather unpredictable. He is erratic. He is mercurial, not terribly ideological, except on one front, tariffs. He's been talking about tariffs for decades, both as a businessman and as a politician. And my sense is that even though many of the people around him may be saying, this is not a good idea, this is not going to help the American worker, this is not going to help the American economy, he's not listening.